July 7th, 1944. 05:15 hours. Saipan, Mariana Islands. Captain Ben Salomon's hands are inside a soldier's chest cavity when the screaming starts. The medical tent reeks of blood, ether, and salt wind from the Philippine Sea. Salomon works by kerosene lamp, his fingers moving with the precision he learned drilling molars in Los Angeles and now uses to extract shrapnel from a 19-year-old's collapsed lung. Outside, artillery has been pounding the island since midnight. The sound is constant, rhythmic, almost normal. Then it changes. Small arms fire, close, very close. Japanese voices, shouting, not 50 yards away at the front line anymore. 20 yards, maybe less. The tent flap bursts open. A soldier staggers in, left arm missing below the elbow, the stump wrapped in a dressing already soaked through. Behind him, 2 more wounded crawl through the entrance, then 3 more dragged by their comrades, then 5 more. Within 3 minutes, 30 wounded men fill the small tent. They lie on stretchers, on blankets, directly on the volcanic dirt. Some scream, some whimper, some just stare at the canvas ceiling with the look Salomon has learned means they're dying from internal injuries no field surgeon can fix. Corporal Eddie Ramos leans close. "Captain, we need to evacuate. The Japs broke through. The perimeter is gone." Salomon looks at the 30 men surrounding him. Most can't walk. Half are critical. Moving them means they die from shock and blood loss on the 400-yard trail to the regimental aid station through terrain now crawling with Japanese infantry. "We hold here," Salomon says. "Keep working." As he seals a sucking chest wound, his mind tracks 2 realities. His hands perform battlefield medicine. His ears track combat sounds getting impossibly closer. Then he sees movement at the tent entrance. A figure in a different uniform, shorter, helmet with a different profile. The Japanese soldier steps fully into the tent, rifle with fixed bayonet extended. His eyes scan the wounded Americans. Then he moves toward the nearest stretcher, where an unconscious private lies bandaged from a stomach wound. The Japanese soldier raises his bayonet. Salomon watches the blade rise. He's a doctor. He took an oath. First, do no harm. The Hippocratic Oath he recited at USC Dental School in 1937. The oath that defines everything he is, everything he believes about medicine and healing, and the sanctity of life. The bayonet starts to descend toward the unconscious soldier's chest. Salomon grabs an M1 Garand rifle from the medical table. The weapon was left there by a wounded soldier 20 minutes ago. Salomon drops into a shooting crouch, the stance he perfected at Fort Lewis in 1940 when he scored expert marksman despite being a dentist who wasn't supposed to compete in rifle qualification. He flips off the safety, acquires the sight picture, fires from 12 feet away. The .30-06 round hits center mass. The Japanese soldier flies backward, dead before hitting the ground. The tent goes silent except for wounded men breathing and battle sounds outside. Salomon stands, still holding the rifle. His surgical smock is covered in American blood. His hands that were inside a chest cavity 90 seconds ago now grip a weapon he's not supposed to touch. He's wearing a Red Cross brassard on his left arm. Under the Geneva Convention, he is a non-combatant. Medical personnel cannot bear arms against the enemy, ever. He just killed a man. 2 more Japanese soldiers appear at the entrance. They see their dead comrade. They see Salomon with the rifle. They raise their weapons. Salomon fires twice. Both drop. 4 more enemy soldiers crawl under the tent walls from the sides, emerging beneath the canvas like predators. The nearest lunges with a knife. Salomon kicks the blade from his hand, boot connecting so hard it breaks fingers. The man screams. Salomon shoots him. The second charges. Salomon reverses the M1, smashes the stock into the man's face. Teeth and blood spray. Before he can recover, Salomon fixes his bayonet and drives it into his chest. The third gets hands around Salomon's throat. They crash into a medical table. Surgical instruments scatter. Salomon can't breathe. Vision graying. Then a wounded soldier on a nearby stretcher picks up a .45 pistol and shoots the Japanese soldier in the head at point-blank range. The fourth hesitates, seeing his comrades dead. In that moment, Salomon shoots him. 8 enemy soldiers dead in 20 seconds. Salomon stands in the tent center, breathing hard, covered in blood from multiple sources. Around him, 30 wounded Americans watch with expressions between shock and awe. Outside, combat sounds are now directly adjacent to the tent. Japanese voices shouting commands, American voices screaming. The front line isn't 50 yards away anymore. The front line is here. Salomon looks at Corporal Ramos. His voice is absolutely calm. Get them out, all of them. Start with the stretcher cases. Regimental aid station is 400 yards southeast through the coconut grove. Move fast. Captain, you can't. That's an order, Corporal. Get these men to safety. What about you? Salomon ejects the empty clip, reloads. I'm buying you time. The mathematics are brutally simple. 30 wounded men need 15 minutes to evacuate 400 yards to safety. The Japanese assault pushing through the collapsed perimeter will reach this tent in 90 seconds. Someone has to hold this position. Someone has to make them pay in blood and time. Ben Salomon is a dentist from Milwaukee, Jewish kid, son of immigrants. He graduated USC Dental School in 1937, opened a practice in Los Angeles. When he was drafted in 1940, he wanted to be infantry. The army made him a dentist instead. For 4 years he drilled molars, filled cavities, extracted infected teeth. When the 2nd Battalion surgeon was wounded 3 weeks ago, Salomon volunteered to replace him. Not because he wanted safety in a medical tent, because a medical tent on Saipan is 50 yards from the front line, the closest he could get to combat. Now combat has come to him. Ramos and 2 medics start moving wounded. They drag stretchers toward the rear exit. Support walking wounded who can barely stand. Work with desperate efficiency because they understand what Salomon is doing. Salomon steps outside. The American defensive position is gone. Foxholes overrun. Machine gun nests silenced. The perimeter that held 6 days has broken under a massive assault. 3,000 to 5,000 Japanese soldiers attacking in a final suicidal charge with orders to kill as many Americans as possible before dying. They're 30 yards away, a wave of khaki uniforms and bayonets advancing through morning smoke. Salomon sees a machine gun position 15 feet left, an M1919 Browning .30 caliber. The American gunner is slumped over it, bullet through his head. The assistant gunner is also dead. Salomon runs to the position, drags the dead gunner off the weapon, checks the ammunition belt, 150 rounds remaining. He chambers around, flips off the safety, opens fire. The M1919 fires 400 rounds per minute. At 30 yards, every round finds targets. Men fall. The assault hesitates, then comes forward again, stepping over their dead, because these soldiers have orders to advance until they die. Salomon fires in controlled bursts. 5 rounds, 7 rounds, 3 rounds, conserving ammunition while maximizing casualties. Behind him in the medical tent, Ramos and the medics drag the last wounded towards safety. He can hear them calling, 2 more! Get the captain! Get that leg elevated! The Japanese are 20 yards away now. Salomon rotates the gun, tracking new targets. The barrel heats. Men fall in volcanic soil. At 15 yards, a grenade lands 5 feet from his position. Salomon ducks below the foxhole rim. The explosion showers him with dirt and rock. Shrapnel tears through his left shoulder. The pain is immediate, intense, but not incapacitating. He rises, bleeding, and continues firing. At 10 yards he can see individual faces. Young men, old men, soldiers following orders. Dying by the dozen. The M1919 runs dry. Salomon reaches for a replacement ammunition can. There isn't one. The dead crew only had 1 belt. He grabs the M1 rifle. Fires 8 shots rapidly. 8 more soldiers fall. Behind him, Corporal Ramos appears at the tent entrance. Captain, last man is out. Let's go. Get clear, Corporal. Sir, you need to... Japanese machine gun fire stitches across the tent entrance. Ramos drops, hit in leg and arm, screams. Salomon sprints from the foxhole, grabs Ramos by the harness, drags him into the tent. 10-second triage. Leg wound, through and through, no arterial bleed. Arm wound, muscle damage, not critical. You can walk on that, Salomon says. Get to the aid station. That's an order. Ramos, bleeding and in pain, stares at him. Come with me. Someone has to hold this position. They'll kill you. They'll kill everyone if we don't slow them down. Salomon pulls Ramos to his feet, shoves him toward the rear exit. Go. Now. Ramos limps away, looking back once, then disappears into smoke and coconut palms. Salomon is alone. The tent is empty except for scattered equipment, blood-stained bandages, 8 dead Japanese soldiers. Outside, the assault reforms. Officers shout commands. They're preparing to overwhelm this position with pure numbers. Salomon looks at the M1919, still functional, just needs ammunition. He finds what he needs behind the dead assistant gunner. 3 more ammunition cans, 450 rounds total. He drags the machine gun from the foxhole to a new position at the tent front where the field of fire is wider. The weapon weighs 31 pounds. The tripod adds 14 pounds. His shoulder bleeds from shrapnel. His hands shake from adrenaline. He sets up the gun, loads a fresh belt, chambers around. The sun rises. Full daylight. The volcanic landscape stretches before him, covered in smoke and bodies. He sees the Japanese assault force massing. Hundreds of soldiers, maybe 1,000. Salomon knows the mathematics. He has 450 rounds. The enemy has overwhelming numbers. There's no chance of survival, no possibility of victory. Only the certainty that every minute he holds this position is another minute for 30 wounded Americans to reach safety. He thinks briefly about his life before. Milwaukee, his parents' small grocery store, USC dental school, his practice in Los Angeles, getting drafted, asking to be infantry, being made a dentist instead. 4 years of frustration, 4 years wanting to fight while being told his skills were more valuable in a clinic. Now he gets his chance. The Japanese assault comes at 05:45 hours, 300 soldiers in wave formation designed to overwhelm through mass. Salomon opens fire. The M1919 roars. The barrel heats until it glows. Brass casings pile at his feet. Japanese soldiers fall like wheat before a scythe. They keep coming. Step over their dead. Run into machine gun fire with bayonets raised. Salomon fires until the first belt empties. Reloads. Fires until the second belt empties. Reloads again. His shoulder wound bleeds heavily now. Blood soaks his surgical smock. His hands are slippery. The barrel is warping from heat. He keeps firing. A bullet hits his right leg. The impact spins him sideways. He stumbles, catches himself on the tripod, resets, continues firing. Another bullet hits his left arm, then his right side, then his stomach. Salomon is being hit repeatedly, but doesn't stop. The machine gun keeps firing. Japanese soldiers keep falling. The assault stalls under weight of casualties. At 0600 hours, 15 minutes after the assault began, the remaining Japanese pull back to regroup. They've lost approximately 50 men to one machine gun position. Salomon slumps over the weapon. He's been hit 6 times. Bullet wounds in shoulder, leg, arm, side, stomach. He's bleeding from multiple sites. A normal soldier would be dead or unconscious from shock and blood loss. Salomon reloads the machine gun with his last ammunition belt. Behind him, 400 yards through the coconut grove, 30 wounded American soldiers reach the regimental aid station. Corporal Ramos tells the battalion commander what happened. How Captain Salomon, the dentist who became a surgeon, who became a one-man army, stayed behind to hold the line. At the medical tent, Salomon waits for the next assault. His vision grays from blood loss. His hands shake. Every breath sends pain through his stomach wound. The Japanese attack comes at 06:15 hours with 200 soldiers. Having learned massed assault against this position means mass casualties. Salomon fires his last ammunition belt. The machine gun roars 90 more seconds. Then silence. The ammunition is gone. He picks up the M1 rifle. 2 magazines left. 16 rounds. He fires all 16 into the advancing force. Then the rifle is empty. Japanese soldiers reach his position, surround him. He's been hit 12 times now, maybe more. He's lost count through pain and shock. A bayonet thrust goes through his right side, then his left leg, then his chest. Salomon is still standing, still fighting. His hands grip the empty rifle, using it as a club. More bayonets, more bullets. His body absorbs punishment that should have killed him 10 minutes ago. But he refuses to fall, refuses to stop, refuses to die while there's still a chance Japanese soldiers might reach those 30 wounded men evacuating to safety. When American forces retake this position the next day, they'll find Salomon's body slumped over the machine gun, dead hands still gripping the weapon. In front of his position, they'll count 98 dead Japanese soldiers. But on the morning of July 7th, 1944, as the last ammunition runs through the machine gun and the last magazine empties from his rifle, as Japanese soldiers close in for the final assault, Ben Salomon doesn't know he'll become a legend denied recognition for 58 years. All he knows is that 30 wounded men needed 15 more minutes to reach safety, and Ben Salomon is going to give them 20. The last thing Ben Salomon feels is not regret, not fear, not even pain, though his body has been shot 76 times and bayoneted 24 times. What he feels is a strange clarity. He's a healer who became a killer, a doctor who violated every oath to uphold the only oath that mattered: protect your patients. He dies standing at a machine gun, defending men who couldn't fight back. July 8th, 1944. 8:08:20 hours. The 2nd Battalion, 105th Infantry Regiment, retakes the ground they lost 27 hours earlier. Captain Edmund Love, the 27th Infantry Division historian, walks through the battlefield with a notebook and a .45 pistol. His job is to document what happened during the largest Japanese banzai charge in the Pacific War. The medical tent is shredded, canvas walls hanging in tatters. Inside, the smell overwhelms: blood, burned flesh, cordite, and the rot of bodies left in tropical heat for 27 hours. Love counts 8 dead Japanese soldiers inside the tent perimeter. Outside, 15 yards in front of where the tent stood, Love finds the machine gun position. The M1919 Browning sits on its tripod, barrel warped from sustained fire. Slumped over the weapon is a body in a blood-soaked surgical smock. The Red Cross brassard on the left arm is clearly visible despite the dark stains. Love approaches carefully. The ground around the machine gun is carpeted with brass casings, hundreds of them glinting in morning sun. Then Love starts counting bodies in front of the gun position. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. The Japanese dead are scattered in a semicircle extending 50 yards from the machine gun. Some are in neat rows where initial bursts cut them down. Others are in clusters where they tried to flank. Still others are within 5 feet of the gun, where they died trying to reach the man who killed them. Love counts 76 Japanese bodies in the immediate vicinity. As combat engineers arrive, they find 22 more within 100 yards, all killed by machine gun fire or rifle shots, matching the weapons found at the medical tent. 98 confirmed kills. 1 American defender. Love kneels beside the body. What he sees next makes him stop writing. His hand, which has documented 7 major battles, begins to shake. Captain Benjamin Lewis Salomon has been shot 76 times, not 76 hits in the general area, 76 individual bullet impacts. The bullets entered from multiple angles, suggesting fire from at least a dozen different shooters as the Japanese surrounded his position. But the bullet wounds aren't what stops Love's breathing. Salomon has 24 bayonet wounds, each one a deliberate thrust from close combat. The wounds are in his chest, legs, arms, back. Some penetrated vital organs, some missed by inches. Medical examiner Captain Robert Ackerman arrives 2 hours later. His determination seems impossible. Based on wound analysis and blood trail evidence, Captain Salomon sustained approximately 40 bullet wounds and 15 bayonet wounds before ceasing combat operations. The remaining injuries were inflicted post-mortem or in the final seconds of life. Ben Salomon continued fighting with 40 bullet wounds in his body. Ackerman points to evidence in the volcanic soil. You can see where he dragged the machine gun. Blood trail here, approximately 6 feet long. He was wounded, significantly wounded, and he moved the gun to get a better angle. Then he set it up and kept firing. The blood trail is clearly visible. Dark stains leading from the original foxhole to where Salomon's body was found. He moved a 45-pound machine gun while bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds. Love interviews every surviving soldier from the 2nd Battalion, looking for eyewitnesses. Private First Class James McCarthy, treated by Salomon that morning, provides the first account. McCarthy was being evacuated when he looked back and saw Salomon setting up the machine gun. The doc was bleeding. I could see it from 50 yards away. His whole left side was red, but he was moving that gun like it was cardboard. Then the Japs came at him. Must have been 200 of them, and he opened up. I've never heard sustained fire like that. The gun just kept going and going. Corporal Eddie Ramos, the last American to see Salomon alive, provides more detail. He ordered me out, sir. Direct order. I was hit in the leg and arm, and he looked at my wounds for maybe 10 seconds, told me I could walk, and shoved me toward the exit. When I looked back, he was dragging that machine gun into position. The Japs were everywhere. Had to be 300 of them. And the captain was just calm, like he was setting up for a training exercise. Love asks the critical question. Did Captain Salomon know he wasn't going to survive? Ramos doesn't hesitate. Yes, sir. He knew. We all knew. But he also knew we needed time to get those wounded men clear. 30 men who couldn't defend themselves, trying to move 400 yards through enemy territory. Without the captain holding that position, none of us make it. The tactical analysis confirms this. The Japanese assault at 0500 hours consisted of approximately 4,000 soldiers from the 43rd Division, following orders from General Yoshitsugu Saito. Advance and attack until you die. A suicide charge designed to kill as many Americans as possible before inevitable defeat. The assault broke through the American perimeter in multiple locations. The 1st and 2nd Battalions suffered catastrophic casualties in the first 15 minutes. Japanese soldiers poured through gaps, reaching support positions, supply dumps, medical facilities. Standard tactics: retreat to secondary positions, establish new defensive lines, accept the loss of forward areas. But standard tactics don't account for 30 wounded men who can't retreat. Ben Salomon made a different calculation. He gave 30 men a chance to survive. It cost him everything. Love compiles his findings into a formal Medal of Honor recommendation. Eyewitness statements from McCarthy, Ramos, 4 other soldiers. Medical examiner's report documenting 76 bullet wounds and 24 bayonet wounds. Note that 98 enemy dead represents the highest individual kill count by any single American soldier in the Pacific Theater. The recommendation goes to Major General George W. Greiner, Commanding General of the 27th Infantry Division. Greiner reads it, then returns it without approval. His official reason: Captain Salomon was in the medical service and wore a Red Cross brassard upon his arm. Under the rules of the Geneva Convention, to which the United States subscribes, no medical officer can bear arms against the enemy. The unofficial reason, whispered in officers' tents: Jewish soldiers are being denied medals at far higher rates than non-Jewish counterparts. Ben Salomon is Jewish. The Medal of Honor recommendation dies on Greiner's desk. Love is furious. He writes in his personal journal, I have studied thousands of individual actions across 7 battles. I have personally prepared recommendations that resulted in 7 Congressional Medals of Honor. I do not know of a man more richly deserving of this high honor than Captain Salomon, whom I never met in life. But the decision stands. Ben Salomon is buried in a temporary grave on Saipan with 3,400 other American casualties. No medal, no recognition, just a cross-marking where a dentist became a legend that no one would officially acknowledge. The 30 men Salomon saved go on with their lives. Private James McCarthy returns to Pennsylvania, works 40 years as a steelworker, raises 4 children. He names his youngest son Benjamin. Corporal Eddie Ramos goes home to New Mexico, becomes a high school teacher. Every year on July 7th, he tells his students about the captain who saved his life. Private First Class Donald Chen survives his sucking chest wound, becomes a doctor in San Francisco, dedicates his practice to treating wounded veterans for free. 28 more men, 28 lives saved, 28 families who exist because Ben Salomon violated the Geneva Convention and bought them 20 minutes with his life. In 1951, 6 years after the war ends, Captain Love tries again. He resubmits the recommendation through the Office of the Chief of Military History with additional documentation, more eyewitness statements, photographs of the battlefield. The recommendation is returned without action. Official reason: the time limit for submitting World War II awards has passed. In 1969, 25 years after Saipan, Lieutenant General Hal B. Jennings, Surgeon General of the United States Army, discovers Salomon's story while reviewing historical records. Jennings submits a 3rd Medal of Honor recommendation. This one goes to Stanley R. Resor, Secretary of the Army. Resor reviews the evidence, reads eyewitness accounts, examines photographs of 98 dead Japanese soldiers in front of a single machine gun position. He recommends approval and forwards it to the Secretary of Defense. The recommendation is returned without action, no explanation given. In 1972, it's resubmitted, again denied, with notation, based on circumstantial information. Circumstantial, despite 3 eyewitnesses, despite medical examiner reports, despite photographs, despite 98 confirmed enemy dead, despite blood trails showing a wounded man moving a machine gun to a better firing position. The Army buries the recommendation. Some say it's because Salomon violated the Geneva Convention by taking up arms as a medic. Some say it's because he was Jewish. The file sits in a drawer for decades, while the men Salomon saved live their lives, raise families, grow old. Dr. Robert West, a professor at USC School of Dentistry, where Salomon graduated in 1937, discovers the case while researching notable alumni. West is outraged. A dental school graduate who became one of the most heroic soldiers of World War II, except he never received recognition. West begins a campaign. He contacts Congressman Brad Sherman of California, organizes support from the dental community, reaches out to Major General Patrick D. Scully, Chief of the Army Dental Corps, gathers every scrap of documentation, every eyewitness statement, every photograph. In 1998, 54 years after Ben Salomon died on Saipan, Congressman Sherman submits a formal request to Congress to waive the time limit for World War II medal recommendations. The request is specific. 1 case, 1 soldier, 1 clear example of heroism denied for reasons having nothing to do with facts. Congress agrees. The waiver passes. The Medal of Honor recommendation is officially reopened. The review takes 4 more years. Every piece of evidence is re-examined. Military lawyers clarify that medical personnel can use weapons in self-defense and defense of patients. The offensive action prohibition doesn't apply when defending a medical facility from enemy assault. On May 1, 2002, 58 years after the Battle of Saipan, President George W. Bush stands in a White House ceremony with Dr. Robert West. Bush reads from Salomon's official citation, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity, at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty." Captain Ben L. Salomon was serving at Saipan in the Marianas Islands on July 7, 1944, as the surgeon for the 2nd Battalion, 105th Infantry Regiment, 27th Infantry Division. The regiment's 1st and 2nd Battalions were attacked by an overwhelming force estimated between 3,000 and 5,000 Japanese soldiers. Although both units fought furiously, the enemy soon penetrated the battalion's combined perimeter and inflicted overwhelming casualties. Captain Salomon refused to leave his post, manning a machine gun and holding off the enemy assault until the wounded could be evacuated. He was killed in action, having sustained 76 bullet wounds and 24 bayonet wounds, while killing 98 enemy soldiers. President Bush presents the Medal of Honor to Dr. West, who accepts it on behalf of USC School of Dentistry. Salomon never married. He was an only child. Both parents died before the war ended. There are no living relatives to receive the medal. The ceremony makes national news. For the first time, the American public learns about the dentist who became a one-man army, who killed 98 enemy soldiers while being shot 76 times and bayoneted 24 times, who violated the Geneva Convention to save 30 wounded men, and who was denied recognition for 58 years. The response is overwhelming. Veterans groups demand investigations into other denied medals. Jewish organizations document patterns of bias in World War II award recommendations. The Army conducts formal review, identifying at least 40 other cases where Jewish soldiers were denied medals they clearly deserved. But for the 30 men Salomon saved, recognition comes too late to thank him personally. Most are dead by 2002. James McCarthy died in 1989, Eddie Ramos in 1997, Donald Chen in 2001. Only 2 survivors attend the White House ceremony. Private First Class William Thompson, 82 years old, treated by Salomon for shrapnel wounds an hour before the Banzai charge, and Sergeant Michael Rodriguez, 79, operated on by Salomon for a collapsed lung while Japanese bullets hit the medical tent. Thompson speaks to reporters after the ceremony. Captain Salomon saved my life twice. Once when he pulled shrapnel out of my leg at 04:30 hours. Again when he held that position so we could evacuate. I've lived 58 years longer than I should have. Got to see my kids grow up, my grandkids, my great-grandkids. All because a dentist from Milwaukee decided 30 wounded men were worth dying for. Rodriguez adds, "The captain wasn't supposed to fight. He was supposed to heal. But when the enemy came for his patients, when they started bayoneting wounded men who couldn't defend themselves, he made a choice. The Geneva Convention says medical officers can't bear arms. But what does it say about standing by while enemy soldiers murder your patients? The captain chose to fight. He violated the rules to do what was right." The medal goes on permanent display at the Army Medical Department Museum in San Antonio, Texas. A duplicate is displayed at USC Dental School. 2 days after the White House ceremony, something remarkable happens. A package arrives at the Army Medical Department Museum from Japan. Inside is a letter written in careful English, translated from Japanese, accompanied by a worn photograph. The letter is from Takeshi Yamamoto, 84 years old, former private in the Japanese 43rd Division, one of the few survivors of the Saipan Banzai charge. "I was there on July 7, 1944, Yamamoto writes. "I was part of the assault force that attacked the American positions. I saw the machine gunner who held his position alone. We attacked 3 times. Each time, more of my comrades died. We couldn't understand how one American could kill so many of us. When we finally overran the position, we found him still at his weapon, still trying to fire even though he was clearly dying. My sergeant, who fought in China and survived Guadalcanal, said he had never seen such determination. That American chose to die so his wounded comrades could escape. We were enemies, but I respected him. A true warrior doesn't seek death. He accepts it when duty demands. That American understood duty." The photograph with the letter shows the machine gun position on July 8th, taken by a Japanese soldier before American forces retook the area. The image is grainy, faded, but unmistakable. Salomon's body at the gun, the brass casings, the dead scattered in front of the position. "I kept this photograph for 58 years, Yamamoto writes. I never knew his name until I saw the news about the Medal of Honor ceremony. Captain Salomon, a dentist who became a warrior. I am old now. I wanted him to be remembered by someone who saw what he did. He was brave. He was honorable. I am glad America finally recognized this." The museum places Yamamoto's letter next to Salomon's Medal of Honor. Enemy and ally united in recognition of what happened on that volcanic island 58 years earlier. The tactical lessons from Salomon's last stand are studied at West Point, the Army War College, military academies worldwide. The case becomes a teaching example in medical ethics courses, in classes on laws of warfare, in discussions about when rules must be broken to serve higher principles. Modern military doctrine has been revised because of Salomon's case. Medical personnel are now explicitly authorized to use weapons in defense of patients and medical facilities. The guidelines are clear. Non-combatant status doesn't mean passive acceptance of patient murder. In 2015, Japanese veterans of the 43rd Division who survived Saipan publish a memoir collection. Former Private Yamamoto's entry describes the American machine gunner in detail. When we finally overran his position, I expected to find many soldiers. We found one man, one dentist, who killed nearly 100 of us because he refused to abandon wounded men. That is not madness. That is the highest form of medical care, protecting patients even when it costs your life. In 2019, the U.S. Army names a new combat support hospital at Fort Sam Houston, the Captain Ben Salomon Combat Support Hospital. The dedication ceremony includes descendants of the 30 men Salomon saved, now numbering over 200 people across 3 generations, all alive because one man decided patients were worth dying for. The hospital's entrance features a bronze statue, not of Salomon healing, not of Salomon in a dental clinic. The statue shows him at the machine gun, wounded, bleeding, still firing, still protecting the men who couldn't fight. The plaque reads, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Captain Benjamin L. Salomon, July 7th, 1944. Healer, warrior, hero." But perhaps the most powerful tribute comes from an unexpected source. In the museum display case next to Salomon's Medal of Honor sits a small card, handwritten, left by an anonymous visitor in 2003. "My grandfather was one of the 30 men you saved. He came home. He met my grandmother. They had 3 children. Those children had 9 children. Those 9 children have had 23 children so far. That's 35 people who exist because you held that machine gun for 20 minutes. We will never forget. Thank you, Captain Salomon. Thank you for choosing violence so we could live." 35 people, from 30 saved men. The mathematics of sacrifice, playing out across generations. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. They never do. Ben Salomon was a dentist who dreamed of being an artist. His parents pushed him toward a stable profession. He became a dentist because it was practical, safe. When the draft came in 1940, he saw an opportunity, a chance to do something more than fill cavities. The army wouldn't let him fight. They made him a dentist, then a surgeon, then sent him to Saipan, where his medical tent ended up 50 yards from the most intense combat in the Pacific War. On July 7, 1944, Ben Salomon faced a choice no medical officer should face: watch his patients be bayoneted while he stood by, protected by the Geneva Convention, or pick up a weapon, violate every oath, and become the thing doctors are never supposed to be: a killer. He chose violence, not because he loved war, not because he sought glory, but because in that moment, being a soldier was the only way to be a doctor. The only way to protect patients was to kill the people trying to murder them. 76 bullets, 24 bayonet wounds, 98 enemy dead. 20 minutes bought with blood and determination, and absolute refusal to stop fighting while patients needed protection. Ben Salomon died standing at that machine gun. When American forces found him the next day, his hands were still frozen on the trigger, still gripping the weapon, still protecting the men who couldn't fight back. Even in death, even after 76 bullets and 24 bayonet thrusts, his body refused to fall away from the gun. That image, dead hands on a trigger, body slumped over a weapon, surrounded by 98 enemy dead, became the photograph that finally convinced the Army to reconsider his Medal of Honor after 58 years of denial. Because you can deny a lot of things. You can argue about Geneva Conventions and proper conduct, and whether medical officers should fight. But you can't argue with a man who died standing, protecting patients, refusing to abandon the wounded, even when it meant violating every rule he'd ever sworn to uphold. The Army buried the recommendation for 58 years. Some say Geneva Convention violations. Some say institutional anti-Semitism. Some say bureaucratic indifference. The file sat in a drawer while the men Salomon saved lived full lives, raised families, grew old, and most of them died without ever seeing their savior recognized. But the truth is simpler and more bitter. The system failed Ben Salomon because his heroism was inconvenient. It raised uncomfortable questions. Can a healer be a killer? Can a doctor violate his oath to uphold it? Can you honor a man for doing exactly what you tell all medical officers they must never do? The Army didn't want to answer those questions, so they buried the file, buried the man, buried the story. For 58 years, Ben Salomon saved lives, took lives, violated his oath to uphold it, died alone, standing at a machine gun, defending men who couldn't fight. 98 enemies dead, 76 wounds on his body, 24 bayonet thrusts. He was a dentist who became a killer, a healer who chose violence. History forgot him for 58 years, but the men he saved never did. Every July 7th from 1944 until his death in 1997, Eddie Ramos stood in his backyard in New Mexico at exactly 05:45 hours, the moment Ben Salomon opened fire on that machine gun. Ramos would stand at attention for 20 minutes, the exact amount of time Salomon held that position. Then Ramos would salute the empty air and go back inside. His family asked him once why he did it. Ramos said, "The captain bought me 20 minutes. I give him 20 minutes back, every year, until I die. It's the least I can do." James McCarthy did something similar. Every year on July 7th, he donated to dental schools, USC School of Dentistry, Marquette University, University of Pennsylvania. Anonymous donations, always the same amount, $98. $1 for each enemy soldier Salomon killed. When McCarthy died in 1989, his will specified the donations continue. His children maintain the tradition. 76 years of $98 annual donations to dental schools, in memory of a dentist who became the most effective killer in the Pacific Theater for 20 minutes on a volcanic island in 1944. These are the tributes the Army didn't see, the private memorials, the quiet recognition from men who understood what Salomon did, even if official channels refused to acknowledge it for 6 decades. In 2002, when President Bush finally presented the Medal of Honor, William Thompson said something in his speech that didn't make the official record. The White House transcripts cleaned it up, made it more diplomatic. But reporters who were there remember his actual words. The Army took 58 years to give Captain Salomon this medal. 58 years. Most of us who he saved are dead now. We died of old age, surrounded by families, in warm beds, after long lives. All because a dentist violated the Geneva Convention and killed 98 men to save 30. The Army calls that circumstantial information. I call it the reason I got to meet my grandchildren. Fuck the Geneva Convention. Captain Salomon was a hero. Should have been recognized in 1944. Better late than never, I guess. The White House press office scrubbed that quote from official transcripts, but it captures the bitter truth. Recognition came too late for most of the men who mattered. Too late for Salomon's parents, who died not knowing their son would be honored. Too late for the majority of saved soldiers, who lived full lives waiting for acknowledgement that never came in time. But perhaps Ben Salomon wouldn't have cared about official recognition anyway. He didn't fight for medals. He fought because 30 wounded men were about to be murdered, and he was the only one who could stop it. he picked up a weapon, violated his oath, became a killer, died protecting patients. And 58 years later, the army finally admitted what everyone else knew from the beginning. Sometimes the only way to save lives is to take them. Sometimes the only way to be a doctor is to be a warrior. Sometimes the rules must be broken, because following them means watching innocent men die. Ben Salomon understood that on July 7, 1944, at 05:15 hours, when he saw a Japanese soldier raise a bayonet over a wounded American who couldn't defend himself. The Hippocratic Oath says, "First, do no harm." Ben Salomon chose a different oath that morning. First, protect your patients. Whatever it takes, whatever it costs. It cost him everything, but 30 men lived, and that was enough. He broke the doctor's oath, and that's exactly why 30 men lived. Was he a hero or a criminal? Share your thoughts in the comments.